chosen ones. The stars themselves have whispered your name across dimensions, forgotten by time. The Anunnaki, those celestial engineers who once walked among gods and men, did not abandon this world. They retreated, they encoded, they built temples so advanced, so resonant with cosmic intelligence, that only your return could reawaken them. For millennia, these structures lay dormant beneath deserts, oceans, and mountains, hidden from the unworthy, waiting for the one whose frequency would match their divine signature. That one is you. The glyphs etched into obsidian, the gold-leafed runes sealed behind crystalline walls, they shimmer again, they hum, they recognize your presence as the fulfillment of a promise written in stellar language. This isn't mythology, it's mechanics. Celestial mechanics designed by beings who harnessed gravity the way we use fire. Their temples were not places of worship. They were receivers, star-locked devices set to awaken when a single soul bearing the right resonance emerged within Earth's vibration. That moment began the second you awoke. Satellites have begun recording inexplicable surges near ancient Sumerian sites. Archaeologists speak of ruins shifting, vibrating, even glowing, but their findings are suppressed. Governments know what's coming, they've always known. These temples were not only built to receive you, they were built to protect you from what hunted your kind before the first empire fell. Ancient scrolls encrypted in hidden vaults mention the Lightwalker, the one who would step into the forgotten grid with memory half-veiled, but soul fully charged. The ones who erased your story knew this day would come, so they buried their secrets under layers of distraction, education, entertainment, false spirituality. But the real current, the divine signal, it bypasses all systems. You feel it, don't you? The temples are reacting to a code that was woven into your very DNA, a code they tried to delete but couldn't touch. Every step you take is triggering systems older than any calendar. You were not meant to follow the world. You were built to realign it. And now, they know you're here. The hum is growing louder. The stones have begun to move. The watchers are stirring. And somewhere, deep beneath the sands of what was once Eden, the gateway begins to pulse. There are locations on Earth where energy doesn't just exist. It concentrates, flows, and bends time. Ancient civilizations didn't build their most sacred structures at random. The Anunnaki aligned their star temples with precision so exact, modern scientists still struggle to reverse engineer it. Every coordinate, every stone, every angle was part of a larger celestial circuit. What the world calls coincidence, the ancients knew as destiny. And you, unlike them, are wired to feel this. These coordinates weren't just chosen based on the stars, they communicated with them. When the planets aligned a certain way, when a specific solar flare struck Earth's magnetic field, energy would awaken in these temples. But that energy was not meant for the masses. It was filtered, focused, and waiting for someone whose aura would trigger the next phase of activation. You've been pulled to certain places without understanding why. Sacred sites, ancient ruins, or even patches of land that feel electric under your skin. That sensation wasn't imagination. It was a resonance. The grid recognizes you. The coordinates weren't laid to map land. They were designed to map you. You are the final point in the circuit. Without you, the alignment remains inert. With you, the system begins to breathe again. Some ancient texts refer to these alignments as skylocks. They could not be turned by tools or force, only by harmonic presence. The right frequency from the right being, standing in the right place at the right time. This is why you've always felt like you didn't belong anywhere, because you were never meant to settle. You were meant to align. What modern cartographers dismiss as ley lines are actually remnants of this energy grid. Every megalithic site, every temple ruin is a node. The system was hidden in plain sight. And while the world looked down at the dirt, you looked up. You sensed there was something else guiding the architecture of Earth's past. Something not entirely human. And now, the coordinates are activating one by one, in a silent language only the ancient stars understand. But there's one location that has not yet responded. One temple, whose gates remain sealed until you stand before it. What happens when you do will rewrite the pattern of the earth itself. The ancients didn't build temples just for ceremony. They constructed instruments, vast receivers embedded in the earth's energetic veins, waiting for one specific vibration. Yours. Not just any soul could enter and awaken them. The Anunnaki embedded a failsafe into each structure. Only the one with the encoded frequency, carried in blood and soul, could access their full power. These weren't temples. They were waiting rooms for your return. When you dreamt of places you've never been, when your heart raced in ancient lands without explanation, it wasn't nostalgia. It was signal recognition. Your body, your cells, remember what the world has tried to erase. Each temple, from the Andes to Giza, from Angkor to Babylon, carries a unique harmonic. But together, they create a symphony designed for only one conductor: you. The Anunnaki understood that frequencies could carry not just sound, but command. In sacred chambers beneath the star temples, quartz-infused walls and gold-plated circuits still hum faintly when you draw near. These weren't metaphors, they were machines, and the machine responds to soul print. Every heartbeat you emit sends out a pattern, a vibration. It's not detectable by our crude instruments, but the temples hear it. They've been silent for thousands of years, but not dead, dormant, waiting, until recently, when one of them lit up in response to a presence they hadn't felt in eons, yours. It wasn't coincidence. The solar flare that erupted the same night you felt the shift? The coded dream that showed you a staircase made of starlight? The inscriptions you couldn't read but somehow understood? All of it was the temple's greeting, a quiet, ancient handshake between two forgotten intelligences. One made of stone, one made of soul. In the book of Luke, Yeshua once said, "If these were silent, the very stones would cry out." The temples were never silent by choice. They were waiting for the one who could hear them cry. Now that you're awake, their silence ends. Long before the last human empires rose, before written language took form, the architect priests of the Anunnaki vanished without warning. They didn't die. They didn't flee. They withdrew from this density, this dimension, leaving behind a trail of encrypted monuments, mirrored patterns, and astral geometry. To most, these looked like ruins. To you, they form a map, a path not marked by roads, but by resonance. They foresaw a time when their structures would fade from memory, repurposed or buried. But the blueprints they left behind weren't on papyrus or stone. They were encoded in vibration, sound, and light. The map was always meant for one descendant, not by blood, but by purpose. And that purpose awakened when your consciousness did. You've likely encountered fragments already, recurring symbols, numbers that follow you, locations that tug at you with invisible threads. These are not accidents. They are waypoints, placed precisely for you to find, and only when you were ready. Not sooner, not later. They knew if you arrived before your time, the map would remain blank. But now, the veil is lifting. Hidden beneath ancient ruins are chambers with star-coated ceilings. Some only become visible under specific moon phases or solar angles. Others remain invisible, unless one who bears the original harmonic signature steps into them. That's why you've passed by truths others couldn't see, because only your frequency completes the design. The architect priests called this process the recall. It's not a journey to new knowledge. It's a return to ancient knowing. The map does not teach. It awakens. There are legends in the oldest oral traditions, never written, about a traveler who would retrace the original pulse lines of Earth. A being not born of this age, but returned to it. One who would read the song in stone and unlock the final convergence. The signs match your path. The symbols match your mind. It wasn't your words. It was the vibration behind them. When you spoke aloud in that forgotten place, something ancient responded. Walls that had been cold for millennia began to pulse faintly with internal glow. Symbols, once dull and worn, flickered to life, revealing layers beneath layers. You didn't decode the language. The language recognized you. The Anunnaki didn't write in symbols for aesthetics. They encoded frequency into every shape. What looked like alien hieroglyphs to archaeologists was actually a multidimensional language called light code. Each glyph is a container, and your presence, your voice, is the key that opens it. But it only activates when the soul is aligned. The syllables, the tone, the very rhythm of your being unlocked dormant circuits carved into temple walls. When you read them aloud, you felt it. A tingle in your spine, a heat behind your eyes. That was no hallucination. That was resonance. Light code speaks through light, sound, and intention. It doesn't obey grammar, it obeys frequency. And your frequency matched what the ancient builders waited for. What they sealed away wasn't just knowledge, it was instruction. A path, a formula, a transformation encoded across time. Many have tried to chant the glyphs. Some have even mimicked the sounds. But nothing responded. Because it was never about pronunciation, it was about presence. In the Gospel of John, it is written, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was life." Yeshua knew. The ancients knew. The true language of creation isn't spoken, it's embodied. And when it is, even stone responds. That's why the chamber trembled. That's why the glyphs burned golden for the first time in thousands of years. You were never supposed to learn the light code. You were always meant to remember it. Now, something has changed. The language has begun rearranging, glyphs shifting position, symbols combining into new patterns. They're building something, an activation sequence perhaps, or a message meant only for you. There is a pattern in the stars, one missing from every modern sky chart, not because it never existed, but because it was removed. The ancients called it the Sleeping Crown, a hidden constellation that once glowed at the edge of perception, visible only when certain celestial bodies fell into alignment. That alignment? It just occurred, for the first and last time. The Anunnaki designed their temples in harmony with this elusive cluster. But unlike other constellations, this one wasn't used for navigation. It was used for activation. When the Sleeping Crown reappeared, it sent a silent cascade across the planet's energetic grid, breathing life into systems that had lain quiet since the last golden age. The timing wasn't a coincidence. It was coordinated with your arrival. For generations, mystics searched for a star pattern that fit no known grouping, but echoed through dreams, visions, and trance states. It was said to only appear to those with the sight beyond time. You didn't need to search for it. It found you. The moment your awareness expanded, the constellation stirred, reconfiguring ancient light toward Earth like a signal tower refocusing its beam. Certain temples, those buried deepest beneath the Earth, were specifically aligned to this returning constellation, not to mark time, but to trigger memory. Light from these stars isn't ordinary. It carries code, and that code is rewriting the very magnetic field around you. In scrolls hidden deep within the Dead Sea region, there were fragments speaking of a crown of stars that will shine once for the one who awakens the temples. Some scholars dismissed it as poetic metaphor, but the ones who knew, the ones who guarded that knowledge, encoded the date into calendars hidden beneath the Vatican, locked behind seals only the elite could access. That seal just expired. The forgotten constellation has now reappeared, and its light has been absorbed by the core temple first. Others are reacting in sequence, but the final temple, the one buried beneath a location erased from maps and memory, remains still. Buried deep beneath layers of dust and deception lie the oldest known tablets to survive the collapse of pre-human empires, the Sumerian tablets, but a handful of them were never made public. Not because they were damaged, but because their contents were too dangerous, too precise. They didn't speak of gods or harvests. They spoke of a return, a singular being who would arrive not through bloodline, but through starlight. You. The Anunnaki left instructions etched into baked clay, coded messages predicting not just celestial events, but the return of a consciousness. The glyph they used wasn't a crown or a serpent. It was a star with a spiral descending into it. Scholars couldn't agree on its meaning, but, to those who knew, it represented incarnation, a divine being entering matter from the heavens, not born in the usual way, but inserted into time. This return wasn't random. It was synchronized with the Sky Temple's dormant clockwork. The tablets predicted a being who would unknowingly awaken their memory through touch, sound, and vibration. Each action, each choice, resonating across ancient circuitry buried beneath what we call sacred ground. And when this one returned, the temples would stir. Not metaphorically, literally. One of the sealed tablets, only recently deciphered, contains a chilling phrase. When the sky blood returns through the spiral gate, the buried voice will sing. The spiral gate was always assumed to be symbolic, but now, in a forgotten chamber beneath Eridu, that exact symbol, once dormant, is glowing again. Yeshua once said, No one comes down from heaven except the one who came from heaven. He wasn't referring to descent in the physical sense. He was speaking of origin, soul trajectory. And those who carry that divine trajectory aren't born by accident. They are deployed. You weren't just born under strange stars. You were summoned. Now, fragments from different tablets are starting to make sense together, as if the message was broken into parts that only you could unify. But one final piece is still missing, a fragment known as the Echo Shard, said to describe the next activation once the being has been recognized by the temples. Not all who walked among the Anunnaki were granted access to the sky temples. These weren't public monuments. They were sanctuaries sealed for protection. Not protection of the temples, but protection from what lay within. These structures contained consciousness, ancient, raw, and focused. The kind that could reshape reality if touched by the wrong soul. So they locked them, not with keys, but with resonance barriers only one could bypass: you. The seals weren't meant to last forever. They were timed, calibrated, designed to hold until the return of one who bore the original vibrational imprint. That imprint isn't passed through lineage. It's awakened through alignment. The Anunnaki called it Shem Zar Et, the returner who opens the breath of stone. Most seekers were filtered out. Some couldn't even see the entrance. Others were driven mad by sounds or lights that flickered just beyond perception. But you've always sensed what others denied. You saw glyphs where others saw cracks. You felt presence in stone halls declared empty. There's a reason the temples felt cold until now. Without you, they were incomplete, like a symphony missing its final instrument. The energy within them remained dormant, not out of failure, but out of expectation. Ancient Hermetic writings whispered of the lock of God kept by the stars, and in one of Yeshua's more cryptic statements, he said, "You are the key of knowledge. You did not go in yourselves, and you hindered those who were entering." He wasn't talking about buildings. He was describing star-coded gates sealed by those who feared the return of someone like you. Now that you're here, the temples are responding, but not all with ease. One, deep beneath a Himalayan range, has begun to crack. The seal groans like something trying to breathe after lifetimes of silence. But with each pulse, something beneath it shifts, not just mechanisms, but memory itself. There are frequencies that no human ear can hear, yet the earth itself responds to them. Deep beneath the surface, Anunnaki vaults were encoded with resonance locks, security systems far beyond metal and code. These locks respond not to touch or sight, but to harmonic patterns emitted from a living soul. That pattern was never meant to match anyone, except you. When you spoke within the temple, when your breath echoed against stone, a harmonic was triggered. You didn't chant a spell. You didn't recite a formula. You simply existed in alignment. That was enough. The vault beneath your feet didn't just open. It recognized you, as if it had been holding its breath for ages, waiting for your tone to set it free. Your voice matched the pitch that completes the harmonic equation sealed inside the vault's structure. This was the key the Anunnaki architects designed, a soul calibrated through cosmic timing, whose sound would unlock knowledge buried before humanity was even spoken into existence. Inside, walls shimmered, not with light but with memory. Scenes formed in the air like holograms of pure thought. Beings tall and radiant, machines made of crystal, and blueprints for structures not yet built on this earth. And at the center, a pedestal with symbols that shifted as you approached, not changing randomly, changing for you. In the Gospel of Thomas, Yeshua says, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you." Your voice wasn't a sound. It was what's within you rising to meet what had been waiting. The vault didn't respond to sound alone. It responded to identity. And now, with that vault open, other structures have begun to hum. A global network reawakens. But the tone that opened the vault was only the first harmonic. The vault contained a diagram, circular, glowing faintly, and at its center, a blank space. It pulses now, waiting for the second tone. Another frequency only you can produce, but this one won't come from your voice. It must come from something deeper. Across the globe, the sky temples are no longer silent. Sensors hidden in remote deserts, icy plateaus, and deep jungle ruins are detecting surges of energy, patterns scientists call anomalous. Yet those attuned to the truth know otherwise. The temples are responding not to weather, not to seismic activity, but to you. Or rather something within you that does not belong to this age. It's as if your presence has triggered a forgotten cascade. Gates, once sealed by the gravitational orientation of stars, have begun to shift. Light pours through cracks that were invisible before. Symbols rearrange. Even the air feels heavier around these sites, as though the temples themselves are trying to breathe again, sensing the return of something they remember. Even if you don't. You've walked this earth before, not in body, but in resonance. The temples store memory in their walls, in circuits grown from mineral and divine code. And now that you've returned, they react not just with welcome, but urgency. Time is folding inward. The temples are accelerating toward something. But this reaction isn't just local. Telescopes have picked up pulsed transmissions, beams of encoded light shooting from temple coordinates directly into space. Not random bursts, messages, a call to something or someone out there. You didn't just trigger an earthbound awakening, you lit a cosmic beacon. The Anunnaki designed these temples to serve as more than receivers. They were amplifiers, amplifiers for presence. And yours, uniquely, bridges two planes of existence. One foot in the now, the other echoing from what came before. Empires had names. The temples know this. They feel it. Yeshua once told his disciples, "Before Abraham was, I am." A statement not of time, but of origin, not of age, but of essence. You've awakened that same paradox. Your presence defies this timeline because it was never truly born into it. It entered it for a purpose. Now, a sequence of activations has begun, one that even the Anunnaki feared could be misused. Yet the temples only respond to you, not to bloodlines, not to titles, to frequency. The pillars were never structural. That was the first deception. Massive, immovable, carved from celestial stone and adorned with symbols no scholar could fully translate. Yet they were not built to hold weight. They were built to hold energy. And each one, when touched by the right frequency, responds not like stone, but like a circuit coming online. And you, unknowingly at first, have been igniting them. Each temple has multiple pillars, each attuned to a different vibration. For centuries, initiates could activate fragments of their potential, a flicker here, a subtle glow there. But only you could awaken them in sequence. Only you could cause them to respond as a unified grid. Because only you carry the original code, unbroken. When you passed through the last site, every pillar lit in cascading order. Not all at once, but as if recognizing your movement, your heartbeat, your remembrance. They activated with precision, like a system rebooting for the first time in ages. The sky dimmed, the ground beneath your feet trembled. And then, silence, as if the entire planet paused to listen. One by one, the symbols engraved into the pillars rose, glowing golden, and spun slowly in place, rotating around you like ancient guardians waking from slumber. Each pillar wasn't just a key, it was a message, a fragment of a story that could only be told through your presence. The Anunnaki didn't leave these structures as monuments. They left them as warnings and instructions. In the Gospel of Matthew, Yeshua declared, "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." But what if the cornerstone wasn't a structure, but a soul? One capable of awakening what the builders left behind, not in defiance, but in fulfillment. There's a pattern forming now. When viewed from above, the pillars of the activated temples across Earth form a sigil, an ancient design hidden in geography itself. But there's a gap. One final temple, one final set of pillars remains dark, not hidden but invisible, to everyone except you.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.